basketball has made its way back to the Indiana campus in the form of Hoosier hysteria, its most hallowed tradition.
The football team sits at an overall record of just 3-3, but could go bowling with a weak slate for their last 6 games. This is Hoosier Sports Night.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Juliana Sherry.
And I'm David Sugarman. It's an exciting week to be in Hoosier country, with Hoosier hysteria tipping off this Saturday.
That's right, David. One of the premier events of Indiana basketball tradition, and a chance to get to know the 2016 men's and women's basketball teams is upon us once again. Last Friday, players, alumni, and students got a first look at the renovated home of Hoosier basketball, now known as the Simon Skjodt Assembly Hall.
With the completion of Cook Hall just a few years ago, upgrading the home court was the next step for the athletic department, and they spared no expense in the future of Hoosier basketball while paying homage to the past. Here's some of the key statements from the speeches given during their dedication ceremony.
Dr. James Naismith, the inventor of basketball, said in a speech in Indianapolis in 1936 that basketball really had its beginning in Indiana, which remains today the center of the sport. 80 years later, most Hoosiers would agree that Indiana is still the center of basketball.
While every day is a great day to be a Hoosier, that is particularly true on this day, and I thank you for being here to be part of this exciting celebration.
I look forward to sitting in this iconic basketball hall for generations to come and sharing good times, winning seasons, and more memories.
We are so proud and humbled to be able to share this iconic building with the passionate fans of Indiana, and for those other opponents that have to come in here and dread playing us.
And as I look around, I just can't seem to find the words that can adequately express how amazing this place is. Indiana University has always been known as the best venue in college basketball, and thanks to the generosity of so many, that experience will be preserved and even better than it has been.
The new entryway is nicer than I would have ever imagined. Walking up to the building, I felt as if I'm going to an NBA arena.
May this beautifully revitalized building open up a world of possibilities for our student athletes, for everyone who's a part of the IU family and community, and for everyone who loves Hoosier basketball.
This building will take a backseat to nobody's building, not only in this country, but in this world of college sports. Thank you very much.
Juliana, the ceremony, of course, part of the unveiling of the renovations that have taken place in the arena over the course of the past year.
Yeah, David, there are a lot of new amenities in the south end of the Simon Skjodt Assembly Hall, and our IUS TV crew was fortunate enough to catch some of the first glimpses of IU basketball's new home. For starters, the entrance features a bridge with Indiana in large letters on a crimson background. The 2 Big Ten trophies are featured in a trophy case on the east side of the entrance, and there are 9 interactive screens that take you on a historic journey of Hoosier basketball. Upstairs on the east and west side of the bridge are sections showing national championship teams in other sports, such as track and field and swimming. Rounding things out is a new president's box with a view overlooking the Hoosiers as they take on any team. Assembly Hall is one of the most recognizable facilities in college basketball, but David, it wasn't always the place that Indiana basketball called home.
That's right, Juliana. The first Assembly Hall sat on the east side of Owen Hall and only housed about 600 people. It hosted the first game in 1901, then basketball moved to the men's gymnasium, currently a part of the School of Public Health. Now, fans complain that wooden backboards block their view, leading to Indiana becoming the first facility in the country to use a glass backboard.
Wildermuth Intramural Center opened in 1928 as the first true basketball stadium in the state and served as the home of Indiana basketball for 30 years. In 1960, the Harry Gladstein Fieldhouse became the home of Indiana basketball before the Assembly Hall we have come to know was built in 1971. The name Assembly Hall is in tribute to the first basketball facility on the campus.
Now, Hoosier hysteria has not been around that long. Jessica Jopic walks us through the changes in the event since the NCAA first allowed midnight practices.
Indiana University came late to the concept of what in the 1990s was called Midnight Madness. Originally run as a regular practice with little to no fan involvement, IU did not start holding this midnight event until around 1996. Since then, the NCAA has changed the rules on starting dates and times for basketball teams, therefore causing the move from midnight to early evening for the event. Adding in changes in coaching staff, the structure of the event began to change as well. It is around the early 2000s where Midnight Madness officially became Hoosier Hysteria. Used to get fans involved and introduce both the men's and women's teams, Hoosier Hysteria acts as Indiana's basketball season tip-off event.
The women's basketball team returns all 5 starters from last year's squad that made it to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2002. But that didn't stop third-year head coach Terry Morin from adding even more experience to the roster. One of the biggest grabs of the offseason was graduate transfer from Dayton, Amber Dean.
Amber Dean began her collegiate career at Dayton, where she put up more than 1,000 points. She transferred to Indiana because the Flyers had run out of scholarships, and the program in Bloomington quickly caught her eye.
I knew I wanted to go to a really prestigious school and get my master's degree from a really good school. The media school really attracted me here. I came on a visit in May and really enjoyed the team, the coaches. They seemed like they really welcomed me and wanted me on the roster. I love the campus as well, and I just couldn't say no to IU.
Even with some major changes, Dean has started to carve out a niche for herself in transitioning from a long stint as a Flyer to her time as a graduate student for the Hoosiers.
The campus here is a little bit bigger, more students, so getting around was a little bit weird at first, but my team and my coaches really helped me out, so it's been a lot of fun.
Junior Amanda Cahill and head coach Terry Morin boasted about the depth that Dean gives them and the experience she brings to the table, especially for a team that finished off last season with a win in the opening round of the NCAA tournament, its first since 1983.
Her and also including the 3 freshmen, I think, are definitely going to be a big help this year. They add a little bit more depth to the whole team. We get a little bit more breaks all across the board in drills and open gym and everything. And I think on every team that's always beneficial to have more people and just more bodies.
We're excited to have a kid of her caliber, a Sweet 16, Elite 8 type player when she was at Dayton. So she certainly brings an experience of playing in the NCAA tournament. But in addition to that, she's just a terrific perimeter player that we can add to our team.
Terry Morin's club is looking to make back-to-back tournament appearances for just the second time in program history. Dean's experience and scoring punch will be one of the keys come March.
Fans will get their first look at Dean and the rest of the Hoosiers this Saturday during Hoosier Hysteria. The women's first regular season game will be November 11th against Presbyterian.
This week, the Indiana football team has been preparing for their next opponent, the Northwestern Wildcats. The game will be on the road in Evanston, Illinois, in a conference matchup that is crucial for both teams. Football reporter Drew Martin tells us how the Hoosiers plan to stop a streaking Northwestern offense.
The key matchup in this game is going to be IU's defensive unit versus Northwestern running back Justin Jackson. Jackson, a career 3,000-yard rusher, was named co-offensive Big Ten Player of the Week for his outing against Michigan State last Saturday. As of October 15th, Jackson leads the Big Ten in rushing with 698 yards, putting him on pace to rush for almost 1,400 yards by the end of the regular season. And for the Hoosiers, offensive lineman Dan Feeney has been out since September with a concussion and is still questionable for Saturday's game. The team will most likely look to its defense to step up for the loss of production on the offensive end. Linebackers T. Gray Scales and Marcus Oliver are 2 veteran players that have this defense playing better than maybe any defense in recent memory at IU. And of course, credit to Tom Allen, as it seems players are buying into the new defensive scheme. Northwestern has historically been a comparable matchup for the Hoosiers, with 7 of the last 9 games being decided by 7 points or less, and 2 of those games extending into overtime. Look for this one to be a close one that comes down to the wire. For IUSTV Sports, I'm Drew Martin.
Indiana's football team took the top 10 ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers down to the wire in Bloomington this past Saturday. Football reporter Brandon Pavlina takes us through the highlights from the Hoosiers' 3rd game in a row against a ranked opponent.
Hoosiers trail by 3 midway through the first. Tommy Armstrong Jr. is going to throw it up to Brandon Riley, who makes this circus catch for 45 yards. Slowing it down for you so you can see all the bounces. And now on 1st and goal, it's Terrell Newby, who finds a hole right up the middle and hits it for the first touchdown of the game. 10-0 Huskers. Ensuing drive for Indiana. First play, Richard Lego is going to put this one up between 2 receivers, and he gets picked off by Chris Jones, who takes it back 33 yards for a touchdown. Huskers lead at 17-0 after the first quarter. But the Hoosiers would rally, thanks in part to their special teams. You're going to see long snapper Dan Gotzel lay out and knock down the punt, and after a 3-and-out sets up this play, a blocked punt by Chase Dutra, resulting in a safety. Hoosiers would tack on 2 field goals to end the half to cut the lead down to 9. Under a minute remaining in the third, same score. It's the electric Mitchell Page who fields the punt and is going to take this one back 39 yards to give the Hoosiers great starting field position, and they would capitalize. After an incompletion, it's Divine Redding who finds a seam and takes it 33 yards upfield for his first rushing touchdown on the year. So 17-15, Hoosiers cut the lead down to 2, and then this happened. Outside the pocket, Armstrong rolling, hits Stanley Morgan Jr. downfield, and a couple of IU DBs collide, and it's off to the races. 72-yard touchdown. Huskers lead back up to 9 in the 4th. But Indiana's not done yet. Lego looking deep down the sideline, and it's caught. Ricky Jones for 36 yards gets the Hoosiers inside the 5. And then it's Redding, this time on the receiving end. A short completion out of the backfield finds the end zone. So 24-22, Huskers lead trimmed back down to 2. Late in the 4th, Indiana's defense in need of a stop, and it appears that they get it in the form of a fumble. But the call on the field is that the runner was down before the ball came out, and that call was confirmed upon review. Here's another look. Tough to tell, just not enough there to overturn the call on the field. So Nebraska would kick a field goal to lead by 5, giving Indiana one last shot, and Lego is going to take it, and it's picked off. Aaron Williams to seal the deal. Final score 27-22. Nebraska comes into Memorial Stadium and takes down Indiana. Lego finished with 196 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Redding had over 60 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Mitchell Page finished with a team-high 9 receptions for 101 yards. Indiana's defense has continued to play well. They only allowed Armstrong to complete 10 passes on the day, and they currently rank in the top 50 in the country in fewest yards allowed per game. For IUSTV Sports, I'm Brandon Pavlina.
With the loss this past weekend for the football team, getting to 6 wins in a bowl game is looking a lot less guaranteed. Many fans are happy that the team stayed close in games against Ohio State and Nebraska, but falling to teams like Wake Forest means there are no shoo-ins. Joining me to talk about the Hoosiers' chances of bowling this season is Taylor Lehman of the Indiana Daily Student. Now, Taylor, they've gone through a really tough part of the schedule. The worst of it may be over. What do you think Indiana's chances going forward are of getting to 6 wins and a second straight bowl game?
Yeah, you're right, David. They got some top-ranked teams out of the way, and Nebraska, Michigan State, and Ohio State. They're off the schedule now. Now, the toughest team on the schedule is Michigan. They don't play them until the second to last week. It's going to be very difficult to win on November 19th in Ann Arbor. So they really need to win games like Rutgers and Purdue, 2 teams who are probably the weakest in the Big Ten. And really, they could still get to a bowl with 5 wins, but they want that 6th. They want the 6th win, so they're going to have to beat a second-tier team in either Northwestern or Maryland or Penn State. Maryland and Penn State aren't playing exactly to the standards that they're used to, and they're both coming into Memorial Stadium as well. So if they can pull off the 2 wins that they shouldn't lose and then pull off a win against either Northwestern or Maryland or Penn State, then they could definitely make it to a bowl game this season.
The game will be at noon on Saturday, and we're on the Big Ten Network. You can also tune in to WIUX 99.1 Student Radio. Mike McMahon, Josh Eastern, and our very own Juliana Sherry on the call for that game.
The field hockey team traveled to Michigan this past weekend for games against the two Big Ten teams from the Great Lakes State. For the second week in a row, the Indiana Hoosiers have beaten a ranked opponent, taking down number 12 Michigan 1-0. Kate Barber finally got back on the scoring side with the game-winning penalty stroke in the 19th minute, giving Barber her nation-leading 16th goal of the season. Goalkeeper Noelle Ruta and the defensive backline for the Hoosiers recorded their third shutout of the season while facing 19 shots. The Hoosiers were once again able to shut out their opponent on penalty corners, their 32nd consecutive penalty kill. However, that streak came to an end against Michigan State on Sunday when the Spartans scored the lone goal of the match in the 6th minute. Indiana was kept in the game by Ruta's 9 saves and senior Malia Fujisawa's 5th defensive save of the season, but to no avail as the Hoosiers dropped to 8-8 overall and 5th in the Big Ten at 3-3. On Wednesday, goalkeeper Noelle Ruta was named the Defensive Player of the Week by the National Field Hockey Coaches Association, the first honoree in IU field hockey history. Ruta and the Hoosiers will look to continue their defensive success when they face Ohio State for senior night at home this Friday in their only game of the weekend.
Juliana, it's hard to believe, but we're almost halfway through the semester and the sporting events are getting few and far in between.
Yeah, David, the fall sports season is starting to come to an end for many varsity teams, but there's still plenty to get out to this weekend in order to bump up your Crimson Guard reward points. Here's a look at some of the upcoming events. Heading into last weekend, women's rugby had hardly made it on the pitch this fall, getting rained out in 2 of their 3 matches. But on Friday, the Hoosiers were able to play in just their 2nd match, going on the road against Notre Dame. However, David, a loss left the team in search of their first win of the season.
That's right, Juliana, but they didn't have to wait long to play their next match. 2 days later, the Ruggers met the Purdue Boilermakers in Brownsburg, Indiana. Jacques Roger was on the pitch, where the rain continued to follow the Hoosiers.
Gray skies over the rugby pitch mean a storm is on the way. A red storm, perhaps? No better time for the thunder to roar for the Hoosiers than when Purdue comes a-callin'. Early in the match, Mackenzie Hoagland with the feed into the scrum, and the 8-man Lauren Proctor gets the feet in motion. No sense in going into contact when Mackenzie is on the outside. A nice pass, nice hands, and nice try to open up the scoring for the Hoosiers. Game now tied at 7 as the Hoosiers are driving the less than conventional pass out of the breakdown, but as long as it goes backwards, it's good. Lauren Ladd gets a few meters on the play before getting taken down by the Boilermakers. Hoosiers in on the ruck, giving McKenzie just enough time to get the pass in the hands of sidestepping Sydney Hugas, who puts it in the center of the post in 4-5. Still in the first, the play of the day. The kicking game is important in rugby, and if the fullback is creeping up, kick it over their heads. And to keep it out of reach, Hugas gets the grub, and talk about placement, it sits right in front of the post, waiting for her to touch it down for the try. Just before the half ends, Purdue with the put-in 5 meters out, but the tried and true wins the scrum, pushing back the Boilermakers and scoring again. The victory goes to Indiana 47-12. For IUS TV, I'm Jacques Roger.
The men also in action this weekend in a game against Notre Dame College out of Ohio. Returning for the Hoosiers this week is Captain Bryce Campbell, who's on tour with the USA Eagles for the past 3 weeks.
In his absence, the Hoosiers have not given up a single point, a task he challenged them with before he left. Don't forget to like our page IUS TV Sports on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at IUS TV Sports. For David Sugarman, I'm Juliana Sherry. We'll see you next week.